looks kind of cool, how they're kind of moved up and down, but this is all opinion. You can choose your own values, but I'm going to put this at 230 at frame 0. So you're just going to control click that keyframe, or control click that little red circle, or yellow circle, so it turns red. Sorry about that, guys. My mouse just went out of battery, but I'm back. So, where were we? You're at frame 0, and you put this Y value to around 230, and you keyframe it. So if you check it out, if you play the animation, the text just kind of comes in a nice, simple way. And you can also keyframe this Z value, so it does something like that. But I'm not really liking that, so I'm just going to keep that at 0. And now you can change the rotation. You can change the H rotation, the P rotation, and the B rotation. And these might not be the best settings, but there's no really right or wrong for random effector. It's kind of all about your opinion of what looks good, so I can't really tell you what the right values are. But I guess this looks decent, the way the text comes in, but the point is just experiment with a random effector and you'll get good results. Alright, so let's just uncheck that random effector for now. It's still there if we need it. And I'll show you another way to animate the text without having to keyframe a million different letters. So you're going to click MoGraph and you're going to go down to Step Effector. And we got to actually make sure we're selected to text before we do that. So MoGraph, Step Effector. And just uncheck the scale. And you're going to check off position and rotation. And this is pretty much like a random effector, except it's not random. And it kind of keyframes these things kind of in a left to right, up to down kind of fashion. You'll see how it works. So let's go to frame 100 on our timeline. And this is going to be kind of the ending keyframe. So it's going to end up looking like this, how we have it. So you're just going to control click all of these values. So they're at 0. And then go back to frame 0 on your animation. And you can control... I'm figuring out, I like the step effector definitely better than the random effector. And let's choose the position Y value, like this one. And let's make it start off down, kind of like that, around negative 300, 400. And now if you play the animation, got something that looks like that. Alright, and then the Z position, you can make the text kind of come towards the camera. So let's put that at about negative 1,000, something that looks like that, and keyframe it at 0. So now you got something that looks kind of cool like that. You know, plain, decent animation, and as I said on the other one, you can just play around with these settings. There's no right or wrong, but just figure out what you like. And the rotation is where it really gets cool. If you put this rotation P value, maybe something about 400 degrees, if you play the animation, kind of swirls up. And it's not looking too bad. And maybe you change to B a little bit, like that maybe. That's negative 353. Now if you play it, looks pretty cool. And once you're done animating that step effector value, if you look on the timeline, you have those two keyframes. I kind of think the animation is taking a little bit too slow to go along. So if you agree, or if you want it to take longer, you can just click the end keyframe and drag it wherever you want. So if I drag to around 65, it will play a lot quicker. And I kind of think that looks better. Alright, but at the same time, I want it to be long enough that it won't just be sitting there for a while when it's done. So let's maybe put it back to around 80. Good compromise. So, once you use these step effectors and random effectors, or you could see what we could try using both, I guess. And now it doesn't look very good, does it? But once you got an animation that you're comfortable with and that you like, we can move on to the next step. Not really next step, but I guess just a couple things before we move on to lighting materials. You're gonna, if you want to add the motion blur onto this text, which is a nice effect, it just kind of blurs it when it's in motion. Pretty straightforward. Just right click on it. Right click on the text. What am I doing wrong? Alright, yeah, Cinema 4D tags and motion blur. Just keep it at 100%. Alright, so you got that. And you can see, if we play the animation, right there you got a lot of sitting time. And while you can do stuff in Adobe to make that interesting, it's still going to be a little bit boring. So let's add a camera shake onto the camera. It's a technique I use on quite a few of my intros. So, right click on the camera, Cinema 4D tags, and choose Vibrate. And I already have a tutorial on this, but it's pretty simple. Once you have that tag on, just check off Enable Position and put the first two amplitude values to 30 and the frequency to 1.3. And those are the settings I like. It's up to you. Kind of subtle, but nice camera shake. It looks like that. Alright, so we got the animation. I think we're good to go for lighting and materials. So let's add a light in front. So go into these four views and just click add a light. And just go into this right view so you can just see it. I'm just going to drag the light forward like that. And that's good. And now if we render it, oops, render that view. Looks okay, but it's definitely too bright in the front, so just take the intensity of the light and put it down to anywhere from 30 to 60%. Let's just put it right there. Yeah, it looks okay. And if you see in some of my intros, you kind of got white highlights that are kind of coming from the top. So if you just add another light and just keep it exactly where it is and just move it straight up, so it's out of the camera, you can see you got those nice highlights going on the top of the text. And I kind of like that, so let's render it. See how it looks. There we go, you got some nice highlights going around on the top. And now, that's pretty much all we really need for lighting. That's usually what I do for lighting. But at a scene right here, you might want some reflections going on right there. So how to get some nice reflections, you can add a plane. So right there, just add a plane by clicking on the cube and clicking plane. And just drag that plane straight up. And this is just going to serve as another light, but it's kind of just a square light. And double click in the materials tab. I'm just going to be making a material for the plane. So check off luminance, give that 200 luminance, and just make the color kind of an off-white, kind of yellow like that. And now you can take that material and apply it onto the plane. And now if we render this frame, you can see it kind of highlights the plane kind of highlights the text right there. So let's just render. Looks like we need to move that plane up a little bit. Make sure your plane's out of the camera. Let's just render this frame right here. Alright, so I don't want to make this tutorial go way over the YouTube limit. It's already going to need to be 2 parts or more. So let's just add a quick material. So double click in the materials tab and double click on the material. So you're going to choose a color. Let's try bright red. Can't go wrong with red. And then you might want to check off luminance. That's up to you. And match the color. Make it red. Maybe put that brightness down to 20-30%. Let's just apply that. onto the text right now. Go back into the material, and I like checking off reflection, and click on texture and Fresnel, and put that brightness. Maybe I usually use the values 10 for the brightness and 30 for the mix strength. And one last thing you can do with the materials to even further highlight this kind of edge, that kind of glowing edge we got going on the top, you can control drag on the material, double click it, and go into the specular tab, and you can make the width maybe 85, the height maybe it's 70, and the fall off about 10, or maybe even more for each of those values. And you can apply this onto the text, and if you want it to only be applied to that edge, all you have to do is type in capital R and then 1 under selection, and now the edge is kind of highlighted even more. So let's render that out. And that's actually looking really nice. I hope you guys like it. So if we just go over our animation real quick, got that cool kind of animation, and you got some nice material, some nice lighting. So I'm just gonna render this and stop the recording, and I'll catch you guys for part 2 of this tutorial in Adobe After Effects. Thanks for watching, guys. Please like this video.